Well, after 3 straight losses, how do the Lightning snap out of their skid tonight against the Winnipeg Jets? We'll tell you exactly what they need to do on today's Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Lightning. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And we want to start, as always, with a shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day every single day. It has not been all sunshine and rainbows in the land of the Bolts fandom. The Tampa Bay Lightning have 3 straight losses. How do they snap out of that losing streak tonight against the Winnipeg Jets? Plus, the NHL trade deadline is ramping up with a couple of Lightning division foes front and center. Do the Lightning need to worry about either the Sabres or Red Wings or somebody else in the division making a big move? Plus, as always, picks and predictions for tonight's game against the Jets. I'm Nick Morgan, your host, and I am joined by my partner in crime, Greg Stephen. And Greg, 3 consecutive losses going into tonight's game against the Winnipeg Jets. So I'll just ask you straight up, buddy, what do the Lightning need to do to break that skid tonight?
It's a great question, Nick. Good morning. And you know what? I think it's really just you got to return to the fundamental game. It's just looked too chaotic lately. You want everyone to just play a smart, safe game tonight. And I think this is a good opponent to snap this losing slump they're in right now.
Yeah, because the Jets haven't been good. But now that you said that, Greg,
I know
we're gonna get like Olympic version of Connor Hellebuck. we're gonna get like Kyle Connor just scoring goal after goal after goal. We're gonna get somebody random like Adam Lowry decide he's like Wayne Gretzky incarnate.
Oh, no.
So yeah. It never fails. We're always gonna get like some jinx in there somewhere.
That's probably true, but I have hope tonight. I have faith in them.
After the recap, we always do something called one word to describe the game. For me, I'm going to have one word to describe the game preview style.
Okay.
And the one word that I'm going to watch for tonight is discipline. And not just discipline in terms of penalties, but discipline with the puck.
Yes.
As I said, in that 5-1 loss to Minnesota, it was a little bit of a jarring score, but I maintain, Greg, I don't think the Lightning played all that poorly all the way through. I thought what happened was the Lightning had pockets where they were really controlling the game, really looked solid, and then pockets where it was just mistake after mistake after mistake. And in those pockets were where the Wild scored their goals. Defensive breakdown on the first goal. Second goal was, a penalty on the Lightning. They get a reprieve by a penalty on Minnesota that wipes out the power play, only to put them back on the power play 10 minutes later with just a dumb stick penalty, followed by another dumb stick penalty. And obviously the whole Vasilevskiy thing, obviously, but there was those little pockets where it was just, you look at the Lightning and say, that's a little bit of a headless play.
Yeah,
if that's the right word, like plays in which you don't use your head. But that to me was, I think, what doomed them in the Wild game and what I want to see them avoid tonight.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you're right. I think they played a pretty solid game for the most part. It's just like you said, there are moments where it looks like a full collapse for just a few minutes, and you pay the price for it against good teams, especially the Wild. That's just how it goes. And I'm with you. I think discipline is the word for this game. And like you said, it's in all areas. I mean, you got to stop taking penalties. You got to be smarter with the puck. I'd love to see some more precise passing tonight. I think we've seen a little bit of, just kind of like hope and pray passes, if you will. And I'd rather them be more patient with the puck. And if you don't have a pass, let's hold on to it or put it in the corner. Smarter hockey, fundamental hockey. And I think if they return to that, all will be well.
Yeah. And if it wasn't issues with chemistry enough, we just found out a little bit earlier today that Dominic James out 8 to 10 weeks, because
Yeah.
why not? Why not just add another major injury to the list this season? But it does bring up kind of an interesting point. It sounds like we're also not going to have Gage Goncalves again for the second game in a row. And we kind of knew he was going to be out for, at least a few games. But Greg, I think you mentioned a lot of the passing and stuff off. I would say it's kind of a big sign that the chemistry is just a little bit off. Okay, well, now all of a sudden you're already trying to fit 7 D-men in the mix, and now you have 2 forwards who are down with injury as well. How do you keep this chemistry going and get players a chance to build up, some reps with the same people while you're having to continually shuffle these lines and bring people in and out?
Yeah, great question. And I think really what it comes down to is figuring out who you're going to solidify as your forward group. Because, I mean, we saw Geeky come up last time and we had Sabrin in there. And if that's who we're going to run with, let's just, keep them in and run with it. I think the constant changing is going to be problematic. Though we have watched them constantly change this whole season, it has not been problematic. So maybe I'm totally wrong about that. But I do think it's, you got to figure out who you're going to replace these injuries with. And you got to kind of try to stick to something that works. Because, building reps is what makes a team and a chemistry so strong. And with this deadline coming up, I mean, even, they were speculating on the broadcast of this Wild game that with these injuries, maybe the Lightning are going for a forward now, You have
to. You have to at this point, because you can't go 11 forwards, no disrespect to him, with Scott Sabrin. Like you can't, if you're going to go 11 forwards, you need those 11 forwards to be doing some REWK snap work, and for my point of view, when you're calling guys up from Syracuse, I'm also kind of the opinion that we might see another call up before this game. In addition to Connor Geeky, who's already up, but you can't go 11 forwards if one of those forwards is playing like 5 minutes a night. Like, you're going to need some guys that you can continually trust. So now I think you're in a situation, it's like you have to kind of go out there, and not just sort of an extra depth guy either. You need a guy who's going to munch some minutes. I'm saying, Greg, Blake Coleman. Coleman would fit in perfectly now. And
better and better.
I am going to be so pissed if we go on tomorrow's show and Blake Coleman's like a Vegas Golden Knight or something.
Ugh, yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it's almost like you predicted it, because right now that's looking like your best option. We were so concerned about the defense for so long, and now it's kind of like, well, we have a healthy defense at this point. So might as well just look for a forward now. I mean, Dominic James was heating up too, man. It's so sad that he got injured so heavily, because he was just building some momentum for himself. He had 2 goals in a row, and then, he just looked good. He looked good out there. And yeah, I mean, losing Gage too, tough. But and look, we still have Nick Paul out, right? Like, there's just so many issues. But I think Vasi returns to form. You have your defense right now. I think once you figure out how you're going to use them, I think that's another key to tonight's game, is figure out how you're going to use your defense, because I kind of didn't really love how they utilized all these guys last game. I thought the ice time was a little weird for each guy, and I'd like to see the Radish-Moser pair play more heavy minutes like we talked about.
100%. And that was going to be my next point, was I think you kind of have to go back to what was working well with that defense. And that is having Radish and Moser play like a number 1 pair. Right. And, JJ Moser's ice time has gone down a little bit because they've used him primarily as sort of a rotational guy. They're trying to get Victor Hedman more minutes, and I understand that. Like, I understand it is a big priority to get Victor Hedman back into form, but I think you have to kind of take it back to what was working well before the Olympic break, and that was Radish and Moser together on that number 1 defensive pair. Now, if they go back for big minutes and, something's off, or they're not have the same magic before, okay, now you can, I think, kind of reshuffle a little bit and maybe work some different guys around. But I think you need to look and say, these guys were manning the ship for such a long time. We have to go back to that. And, Victor Hedman, obviously, one of the best defensemen of our generation, the best defender in the history of the Tampa Bay Lightning. But I think at this point, the way his season's been going, the way he's battling injuries, and just the play seeming to be a step off a little bit, since, he first kind of started getting hurt a little bit earlier in this year, I think you need to go back and pick and choose where you use him. And that's maybe more of a third line role for him. And that way you're able to deploy him in situations that fit his need. And, I think you need to be a little bit selfish with your minutes there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think, while he has been a historic and Hall of Fame defenseman, the time has come where I think he's not that first guy anymore. And, we've seen Radish carry that weight, and I'd like to see that continue because he's done such a good job, especially on the power play, right? So I don't think there needs to be any change there. And I think it's perfectly acceptable for Hedman to play a second or third pair role.
Yeah. And I think we're going to have to see that in action tonight to get back. They have to kind of take a step back and revert to what was working well before the break.
Exactly.
8:00 puck drop for tonight's game against the Winnipeg Jets. We're actually going to have a little bit of a key to the game and some picks and predictions coming up a little bit later in the show. But first, it is right in the midst of trade deadline season. The deadline is actually tomorrow, and there's a couple of division teams making some big splashes. Is that going to put pressure on the Lightning to react and make a move? We'll talk about that when we come back. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Hey, are you going through some workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing? Maybe now doesn't seem like the right time to sit down, go through resumes, and interview a bunch of people for an open position. But when the pressure is on and you need the right hire, you need Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for in terms of skills, experience, and location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate just stumbles across your post. Here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Here's another little fun twist. Listeners of Locked On Lightning get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium status it deserves, and Indeed.com/podcast. Again, just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Lightning. Again, Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. If you need a hire, you need Indeed sponsored jobs. We're back on Locked On Lightning. Nick Morgan here alongside Greg Steven. The trade deadline is what everybody's talking around the NHL this week. And right now, if you join our Everydayer Club for ad-free audio, access to our group chat on Discord, and more, you can use code DEADLINE ahead of the trade deadline for 1 month free. Again, just go to lockedonpodcast.com to get started, or click the link below in our show notes. We would love to have you as part of our Everydayer Club. All right, Greg, speaking of the trade deadline, we've had a lot of trades already starting to pick up, especially in the last 24, 48 hours, including a big one in the division. The Buffalo Sabres are reportedly close to finalizing a trade for Colton Parayko, who, of course, played big minutes for Canada at the Olympics. Buffalo already on a hot streak, a bevy of good defensemen on their team. And there's also rumors that Buffalo was still going after Robert Thomas on the Blues. The Red Wings are going after Robert Thomas on the Blues. Notice there's a lot of Atlantic Division foes that I just threw out there, Greg.
Yeah, and look, I think bolstering either of those teams is pretty scary. I mean, we saw the Sabres play the Lightning pretty recently, and it didn't go so well for the Lightning. So, you add some high-end talent in there, and it gets a little scarier. And I don't know if I would say that it puts pressure on the Lightning, though. And here's why. I think you got to worry less about everyone else and worry more about yourself. I think if the Lightning can solve whatever they're going through right now and return to the game they've been playing for a majority of this season outside of the first 7 games, they can beat any team. And I don't care who you add because Lightning can beat you with the best of their game. And I do think the only pressure that comes with that is if you are planning to make a move, who's really left if all these guys go to these teams, you know? So as far as pressure goes, I think, yeah, maybe a little bit, only because if you want to add, you better do it soon. But again, I still think, who cares? Like, I think the team they have, when healthy and playing well, can beat any team in the league.
I agree with you when they're healthy.
Right.
And when there's depth.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, wouldn't you say, Greg, health is a little bit of a concern across the board for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And so that's where I think, and look, they don't need to like acquire Robert Thomas.
No.
Or anything like that. Or Jake DeBrusk, or, you know, bring in somebody from a big team. But I do think they need to be aggressive in addressing some holes right now. And look, there is definitely a hole in forward because obviously Dominic James was playing a big role for you guys. And now he's out for probably the rest of the regular season. That was already without Nick Paul. There's a big hole there. There's also, I would say, Greg, still a big hole on the right side of the defense because Max Crozier was one of your right-shotted defensemen, and he's out for also probably the rest of the regular season. And there is a little bit of, you know, some chemistry gone awry with him out of the lineup. Mm-hmm. So you have some big holes, and I think this is an opportunity for the Lightning to, I guess, you know, be aggressive a little bit in filling them. And again, these aren't deals where you need to go look at your first round pick 5 years from now and be like, all right, who are we getting for our first round this year? But I do think there are some good depth deals to be made. And yes, I do think that there is pressure on a little bit because especially if the Red Wings, you know, are, you know, they've been trying to pull off a trade like this for 3 years now. They tried with Marner, couldn't get it done. They tried with Quinn Hughes. They're going to keep trying on somebody. Mm-hmm. And the Sabres right now look like a better team than the Lightning over the past 10 games. And they're, hey, I don't know if you check the standings, 2 points behind us. So there's not a lot of room for error down the stretch. And yeah, so I kind of push back. I do think those two teams in a position to get better is going to put some Lightning to address some of their holes.
Yeah, and that's totally valid. And I think, like I said earlier, you're probably looking for a forward right now. And I think what you said that's really important here is that you don't need to go after Robert Thomas or someone equivalent. You just need someone that's better than Geeky and Sabrin.
Named Blake Coleman.
Right. I mean, named Blake Coleman. Exactly. You're onto it. I'm telling you, I love it. I think it's realistic. It's possible. They should just pull the trigger and get it done because what do they got? 27 hours, something like that. So, I'd love to see a trade with the Tampa Bay Lightning soon. I really would. I would hope it's either today or tomorrow morning, but I just want to see something happen because I think even just making a trade sometimes can hype up your team, you know? Yeah. And let's just pretend they lose this game. I mean, you make a trade right after that, then it's kind of like, all right, guys, we got another guy. Let's get this done. And I feel like it gives a little bit of a resurgence to the energy. So I don't know. I mean, I'd much prefer they win, but I'd still love to see a strong trade from the Lightning. I don't think, like you said, they need to cough up anything major to get anything done. But yeah, something needs to be done, I think, at this point. I was on the stand firm ship for a while, but now that we've seen Gage and Dominic go down, not feeling the same.
I agree. I think those injuries kind of changed the dynamic of what the Lightning need to do and sort of what their needs are overall. Yeah. So I hope to see something in the next whatever it is,
28
hours,
something like that.
27.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. Somebody good with math, chime in. We do have more pressing action to get to before the trade deadline, though, and that includes a big game tonight against the Winnipeg Jets. Lightning trying to snap out of that losing streak. Can they make it happen? We'll talk about it when we come back. Today's episode is brought to you by Factor. Hey, spring is right around the corner, which means it's time to start thinking ahead to that beach bod. But when you don't have time to cook, eating well can feel like another thing on the to-do list. Well, that's where Factor comes in. Factor makes healthy eating easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs so you can eat well without the planning, prepping, or cooking. Factor meals are always fresh, never frozen, and ready in about 2 minutes. They're not just they're not TV dinners, people. They have quality ingredients like lean protein, colorful veggies, whole foods, and healthy fats with no refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, and no refined seed oils. The best part about Factor is whatever your eating goals are, there's healthy meals for you, like the high protein plan, Calorie Smart Plan, Mediterranean diet, GLP-1 support, and even the new Muscle Pro collection for strength and recovery. It's all part of a rotating variety of 100 rotating meals each week, so your meals never get boring. It's perfect for busy weeks when you still want meals that support your goals without the stress. So go to factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off and use code LockedOnNHL50 off to get 50% off and free breakfast for a year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. One free breakfast item per box for 1 year while subscription is active. Again, go to Factor to get started. Back on Locked on Lightning, Nick Morgan here alongside Greg Steven. Greg, big game tonight for the Bolts against the Winnipeg Jets. 8 o'clock puck drop in Winnipeg. Give me one big key for the Lightning to win tonight. Mike's off.
Yep, it was. My key to the game tonight is Vasilevskiy. And I think if he goes back to how he was playing in this 20-game murder streak they were on, there's just no team that can beat them. And he's given up a couple questionable goals since returning from the Olympic break. And I would just love to see him play a full 60 minutes of brick wall action. And he's got another goaltender on the other side that's equally as good, arguably, and he might not have looked as great so far this season, but he's still Connor Hellebuck, and he is still Andrei Vasilevskiy, and to me, this is a goaltending duel.
I'll tell you, the week that Vasilevskiy's in back, I picture him as like Wolverine stroking the picture of the U.S. Olympic team. Yeah, because things have not gone well for him in Winnipeg this year. I'm going the other direction, Greg, and I'm going up front. And to me, this is a big game, I think, for the big guns for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm looking at Nikita Kucherov. I'm looking at Jake Gensel, Braden Point. That cast of characters. The depth behind him right now, especially up front, is pretty shattered. No Gage Goncalves, no Dominic James, no Nick Paul. So you are without three big players who've played a lot in terms of depth this year. So when the depth is not there, you need more production from your number one guys. Just ask the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah. But I do think this is a chance for them to go out and sort of steady the ship. And if we go back to the Nikita Kucherov that we had before the Olympic break, I think I maintain what I said back then, Greg. I think the Lightning are good enough to beat any team, win any game. And so that's why I'm looking forward. I'm looking for the big guns for the Lightning to step up tonight.
Yes, and I'd love to see Kucherov be much smarter and more fundamental tonight. I think that's going to be a key as well, because I think Braden Point has looked excellent. And
that is one thing that I think has kind of fallen through the cracks here. Is Braden Point has looked good since the Olympics,
right? And he's looked really, really good. Actually, he's looked like himself. Let me tell you. So you get Kucherov playing his game as well. Those two together plus Vasi playing a strong game. Those three alone can win you a game. So I don't know. I think, with Vasi and Kuch kind of settling down maybe a little bit is the phrase we should use. Things should look good.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier, Greg, you thought this was going to be a big goaltending battle. Connor Hellebuyck on one end, Vasilevskiy on the other. So that should make this interesting. The over-under tonight, according to our friends at FanDuel, 5.5. Going above that, going below that.
I hate this. I'm going to go with the over.
This was your idea, I think, to
I
start
know.
this whole segment.
I'm going with the
season.
over. I'm going with the over.
I don't know. I trust you. I trust you that I think this is going to be a goaltending duel, so I'm going to go the under.
Okay.
See, we're covered either way, man.
Yeah, I guess it still feels bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is the part of the show where everybody just tunes in to see if we fail or not.
Right.
Give me a anytime goal scorer. We have been hitting on these.
Yeah, we have. But I don't have my Dominic James pick anymore.
You don't have your hey, you got the goal out of it.
I did. I think I'm going to go with Brayden Point.
Okay.
I think he's just looked too good to ignore. I think he scores.
I was also going to go with Brayden Point for the same reason.
Okay.
But I'll switch it up a little bit, and I'll say Nikita Kucherov. Again,
Okay.
like I said, I think when things are tough, when there's some adversity, when there's injuries, you rely more on the guys that are already there. And so that's why I think we're going to have some big action from Kuch tonight. Hopefully, knock on wood, we will, because I do think that's a big key to the game.
Agreed.
Yeah. Again, 8:00 Eastern puck drop tonight in Winnipeg. We will be back tomorrow to break it all down, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. It is also, when next time we see you, going to be just a few hours away to the NHL trade line. So we might see some news today. We'll break it down if it happens. If not, we'll talk about what the Lightning need to do tomorrow at the deadline. In the meantime, make sure you hit that subscribe button, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening in on your favorite podcasting platform. It lets you guys know when we have new content out for you. Also, make sure you keep tabs on our social media, Locked On Lightning, TikTok, Instagram, pretty much anywhere you scroll, we're on there. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Lightning. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Back with a new episode tomorrow. We'll see you then.